So you're a manager, or you think you might want to be a manager. Either way, this video is for you. In this video, we give 7 tips on how to be a great people manager. Now, people managers may be called different things: a leader, a boss, a coach, a supervisor. Whatever it's called, in this video, we'll break down 7 critical skills that you need to have to be a good manager and talk about the ways that you could develop these. First is, people management is a skill, and one that's often completely different than any job you've done before. Many times people are put into management because they're great individual contributors. That means you do a job well, even if you don't manage others, and people think, oh, great, we'll put them into place and they can teach others. But that idea of teaching others, training others can be really hard, especially if you've done well at your job and you're not used to having to give tips to individuals starting out or explain to people that aren't as good at it as you are. So in people management, it's important to know that what you're learning to do is a learning process, and so be patient with yourself. And just as frustrated as you might feel with yourself for being in this position or for employees that just don't get it, know that one of the biggest skills of management is patience, and it's one that you have to learn over time. So being patient and knowing that a lot of your job is going to be very different from things you've done before is a critical skill for management. Second is, in people management, it's about your employees' gold stars, not yours, meaning that the credit your employees get reflects well on you. So with everything you do, if you can think about the fact that lifting your employees up, their name recognition, what they're doing in an organization, oftentimes it can be really hard, especially if you're a newer manager, because you're used to seeing yourself ranked on a leaderboard or having it be important how many times your name is mentioned. But as a people leader, it's really about your employees. And so thinking about everything of how can I give credit and give opportunities to my employees. Not giving credit to them for something you did or someone else did to be nice to them, but giving them those opportunities to develop internal relationships, to learn, have times to shine, and ultimately the credit they give is better for them and for you in your own career. Third, a critical part of management is delegating. Because if you try to be a player coach, meaning that you try to do a lot of work independently and coach others, it can quickly be exhausting and lead to burnout. But in delegation, it can actually be really scary, even for the toughest of managers. And that's because you may be used to doing something. You know how to do it. You know what to understand. But when you try to explain it to somebody else, you may think, are they just going to mess it up? Can't I just recreate a whole team of myself? Can I trust them? But developing that trust with your team requires those skills that include communication and delegation. So as you delegate, thinking about what you delegate to your teams. One key is, as you're explaining to an individual what you're delegating, is what that output is going to look like. What's expected? Why does it matter? How does this fit into the organization's goals? And what are you looking for? Are you looking for a 10-page paper? Are you looking for an email? So being really specific about what you want it to look like. And then talking to them. What's your plan? What are you thinking? Talking back and forth with them. And then asking them, hey, I know that sometimes when I have things come out, it often makes sense to me in my head, but not always to the other individual listening to it. So just walk me through what you're expecting and what you're going to do. If there's any questions you have, so that as you go out, we can check in from time to time, but that you have a good idea of what I'm talking about. Those are simple steps that you can take in delegating to avoid a situation when you say something, employee doesn't ask questions because they're afraid to and they think that they should already know, and then it ends up being a disaster. So in delegating, using your responsibility and your communication to talk to the employee and have them repeat some of those back to you in a common way, not a condescending way, is a great skill as a manager. Fourth is a mindset shift. So as I said, it can be really hard, especially if you moved into management because you were really successful, top of the leaderboard in your prior role. Well, now you're responsible for everybody on that leaderboard, getting the most out of your best performers, helping your medium and low performers, and that can be a really overwhelming job. But thinking about in your communications, every time you're going, having a habit of thinking, how can I get the most out of this employee? And what kind of questions can I ask before I dive in? Asking those types of things can help from the mindset. So as you're going in, it is collaborative rather than coming in frustrated at an employee when something's gone wrong. But taking a step to thinking, how can I build this employee up and what questions can I ask to understand their perspective so that you can address anything that may have gone on prior to fix it moving forward. 5 is knowing that your employees' comfort levels may be very different. Like if you're an extrovert and you're used to sharing things willingly or public speaking, you may think everyone must feel like that. But it couldn't be further from the truth. On your team, you're likely to have a variety of personalities, to say the least, and a variety of interests, things like public speaking. Some may be very interested. Others, it may be their worst nightmare. Things about sharing information. Some may share everything in the world if you'd let them. Others may be really hesitant. Even sharing things like birthdays can be against certain religions. So taking a step back and meeting individual with employees to generally talk through different things that they're working on. How interested are you in? Things like leading a project, doing public speaking, different type of leadership opportunities, or working with another team. Getting a sense of what they've done and what they're interested in to show that they are a unique individual, and explaining, planting that flag as I talked about, that you're not going to be able to give them every opportunity at every second, but understanding each as individuals and knowing that at times there's going to be have to things that they'll learn to do, but they'll always have your support. And understanding as well to explain to them. Employees have different levels of what they want to share with the teams. And so in things like icebreakers, I generally won't make people share any sort of personal details because I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. If you do want to speak up and share, great. But I also want to invite you that if you don't feel like it, it's completely fine. Things like that can help employees. Over time, your employees may share personal details with you, even one-on-one, things like medical conditions or religions. We talk about this more in our Manager 101 course in depth because these are more sensitive subjects, but taking a step back and talking even generally about work-related projects to show your team that you're invested in them as individuals and getting a sense of what their likes and dislikes are and how you can help to support them individually. 6 is conflict resolution. And this can be good conflict and bad conflict. Good conflict can be inviting others' opinions. Like if you're having a meeting and talking about things, oftentimes someone may say something and everyone feels like they have to follow the first one that talked. But that may not be helpful, especially to get to the right outcome for the team or for your organization. And so getting different people's opinions. But also that bad conflict, that can happen. When you plant a flag with your team and say, as a team, we do expect everyone to work together professionally. And so if we do have things come up, we'll talk through them. If it's something that needs my help or support, or I feel like is becoming an issue for the team, I'll talk to you individually about it or talk as a team if we need to. But planting that flag and showing that in that environment, these are what the expectations are, can make it better when things do come up. Because when you work with people, people may feel passionately about something. You can have that conflict at work. But so always going back to those themes of we want to be an environment where you can come, you can share your opinions, but also we need to learn how to respect others and work professionally. And so having those type of conversations and building those skills to foster the good conflict and to manage the bad are really critical ones for managers to have. The 7th and final skill is communication. It may be the most critical. Frequently, managers will fear, well, I don't want to drown them out with communication. They don't need another email. But rarely are those fears as founded as the ones where employees fear, I don't know what I'm hearing from my manager. I don't feel like I hear anything. Because communication is incredibly important for employees to feel connected to what the organization is doing overall. Your role as a manager is often to cascade information. That means that things you'll hear, you're expected to pass down to employees. From time to time, there may be information that you can't share with your teams, that you're explicitly told not to. But wherever you can, being transparent with your team and having that information is better than so many managers out there that just forget about it or think it doesn't matter to employees. And frequently, that's an assumption that's just not true. And it's also owning that communication and being the source of truth for your employees, the person that they can go to as a resource and when they have questions. And that may mean that you have to get information from other places, occasionally point them to somebody else. But the more that you can get information from above or other ways and give that to the employees, and when employees ask you questions, help to find that information out, that will help your employees do their jobs better, which only helps you as a manager. And owning those messages. Sometimes there will be really difficult messages. In Manager 101, we talk about things like layoff situations or a pay when you can't get that pay increase. And it can be easier as a manager to say, oh, it wasn't my decision. It was above my pay grade. But the message that sends to employees is, okay, so who do I need to talk to? So as a manager, understanding how you can own and deliver messages to your employees and communicate with them is a critical aspect that will only help those employees and you in your career as a leader. These were 7 skills that managers need to have. And if these spoke to you, then don't miss our free 7-day Manager Makeover Challenge, where you can get tips each day for less than 15 minutes that go a little bit more in depth in this video. Or check out our Manager 101 course, where we go more in depth and certify managers, including all manager teams, in talking about soft skills like imposter syndrome, delegation, empathy, or more hard skills like things you need to know about pay, time off requests, accommodations, performance coaching. So I'll include links to both of those below. But thanks for watching.